It is never the entire story that stays with you, not the full chapter, not the big realization, not even the moment itself. What remains is the sentence, the line that landed in your body in a way that everything else around it dissolved. Sometimes it comes from someone you trust, and sometimes it comes from a stranger or a book or a dream or nowhere at all. But when it arrives, it does not feel like learning something new. It feels like remembering something you had always known but never said out loud. It echoes because it touches something buried, something quiet, something old. My sentence came to me in the middle of an ordinary conversation. Someone looked at me and said, "You do not have to keep performing to be loved." That was all, nothing more. But those words did something that no life event had managed to do. They stopped me, froze me, softened me. It was like hearing a new language and realizing it was the one you had been waiting to speak your entire life. It stayed because it was true. It stayed because it knew where to go. And the more I sat with it, the more I realized how many decisions I had made based on its opposite. All the times I stayed in places where I shrunk. All the times I explained myself to people who had no intention of understanding me. All the ways I proved, chased, earned, twisted, and bent just to feel worthy. That one sentence did not just change how I saw myself, it changed how I saw my past. It echoed backward, showing me what I had been living under. And that is the strange gift of a sentence. It does not only speak forward, it rewrites what came before. It creates space where before there was only noise. I started to wonder how many other sentences had shaped me without my consent. Things said in passing, things not said at all. Silent beliefs I picked up like stones along the path and carried for years, not knowing they were weighing me down. Eckhart Tolle once said that awareness is the greatest agent for change, and when that sentence arrived, I became aware of the script I had been living. A script that was never mine to begin with. I remembered my childhood and how much I longed to be told that I was enough even when I was doing nothing. I remembered the teachers who praised performance but never presence. The friends who loved the version of me that was always available but never vulnerable. The moments I swallowed my truth just to keep the peace. That sentence did not fix everything. It did not erase the past. But it gave me something I had not felt in a long time. It gave me pause. And in that pause, I could hear myself. I could feel the small, quiet voice that had been waiting beneath all the noise. Louise Hay talked about affirmations as medicine, as a way of rewriting the story the inner child keeps looping. And maybe a single sentence is like a wild affirmation. One you never expected, one that comes from the world or the soul or the stillness, and it brings your breath back. It says, "Come home. You do not have to do this the hard way anymore." It does not yell, it simply reminds. It nudges the door open, and then waits for you to walk through it. It is not a command. It is an invitation. Sometimes the sentence arrives at rock bottom. Not when you are strong, but when you are fragile. When you are sitting on the bathroom floor trying to remember who you are beneath all the expectations. It does not always come in a flash of light. Sometimes it slips through the crack between two sobs. I once read a letter from someone who said their moment came when they whispered to themselves, "I cannot live like this anymore." And that was it. Not a solution, not a plan. Just an honest sentence, and that sentence became the turning point. Not because it brought clarity, but because it brought truth. Carl Rogers said that the curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, then I can change. And some sentences bring that acceptance. They are like soft mirrors held in front of us saying, look, not with judgment, with tenderness, with honesty, with presence. The echo of these sentences lingers because they are aligned with our becoming. They show us the gap between who we are and who we were pretending to be. They shine a gentle light on the places we abandoned for safety. Sometimes that sentence is not beautiful or poetic. Sometimes it is messy and simple. It might be, I need help, or I deserve more, or I cannot keep giving parts of myself away just to be chosen. And even if it is not said out loud, even if no one else hears it, your soul hears it. Your body hears it, your path hears it, and something begins to shift. There is a sacredness to the way a sentence can land inside you and rewrite your entire sense of reality without a single explanation. Neville Goddard spoke often about the power of assumption, how the thoughts we accept as true become the architecture of our lives. A sentence can be that first shift in assumption, the crack in the foundation, the quiet beginning of a new reality. I remember speaking with someone who had spent years in a toxic relationship, shrinking and second-guessing themselves, and all it took was one friend looking them in the eye and saying, "You do not deserve this." They had heard similar things before, but something about that moment, that tone, that presence made the words land differently. And that became the sentence that echoed. Not because it was new, but because it finally met them in a place they could receive it. I think the universe speaks through many voices, and sometimes it waits for us to be still enough to hear. The sentence might not even sound revolutionary to someone else, but for you it becomes a compass, a doorway, a return. Maya Angelou once said, "When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time." For some people, that one sentence saves them years of self-betrayal. And when it finally echoes through the confusion, they wake up. And waking up is not always loud. It is often quiet, like the slow realization that you are allowed to leave, to rest, to stop explaining yourself, to exist without guilt. The sentence becomes an anchor, a guide, a seed. There was a time I thought transformation had to be dramatic, that awakening only came through collapse or chaos. But now I understand that sometimes it comes through stillness, through the gentle reverberation of a single sentence that touches something honest inside you. Sometimes it is a line from a book that you cannot stop rereading. Sometimes it is something a therapist says softly while you are too tired to pretend. Sometimes it is something you say to yourself in the dark, barely a whisper, but it opens a new direction. I once heard someone say, "You do not owe your suffering to anyone." And that sentence broke something open in me. I had never realized how deeply I had been carrying pain like a badge, as if I needed to prove how much I had survived in order to be worthy of peace. That sentence helped me realize that I could set it down. That healing was not about erasing the past, but about choosing not to let it define my value. When you think about it, most of the deep changes in our lives began with a small shift in perception, and that shift almost always had words attached to it. Sentences are more than language. They are spells, permissions, undoings, bridges. And when one truly echoes, it does not just stay in your mind. It finds a home in your nervous system, in your patterns, in your decisions. It becomes the quiet soundtrack underneath new beginnings. You begin to build from it. You begin to breathe differently. you begin to see differently. When we talk about healing, about awakening, about the shift from surviving to living, what we are really talking about is the moment a sentence becomes real. Not just understood, but embodied. It is one thing to know you are worthy. It is another thing to feel it. And sometimes that feeling begins with hearing the right sentence at the right time, in the right tone, from the right presence. Maybe that is why we are drawn to certain voices, certain books, certain conversations. We are not always looking for answers. We are listening for echoes. And when it comes, when it finally arrives, it does not feel like noise. It feels like home. The sentence I heard still echoes in me. You do not have to keep performing to be loved. It returns when I'm tempted to betray myself. It returns when I think I need to over-explain. It returns when I forget who I am. And every time it comes back, it feels like a hand on my shoulder, like a breath in my chest, like a reminder that I have already begun. I do not know what your sentence is. Maybe you are still waiting to hear it. Or maybe you have already heard it and it is waiting for you to believe it. Either way, I hope you stay open to it. I hope you notice the ones that try to land softly inside you. Because one day, when you are least expecting it, a single sentence might echo so deeply that your life quietly shifts direction, and you will. Look back and realize that everything changed not through force, but through resonance. Through one sacred line that finally felt true. If this echoed somewhere in you, even quietly, let it live louder. Leave a comment with a sentence that changed you, or tag someone who needs to hear this. And if it found you at the right time, don't forget to like and share the feeling forward.